Just do it. So Shanice, please.
Thanks, Daisy. And yeah, welcome. Good to see Ansel, Emma, Kelly. I hope I got that right. Welcome to this session. Really nice to have you. Alim, wonderful to see you on the session. And thank you for signing up. So my name is Shanice Lojere, and it's a pleasure to be here. In the next 60 seconds, I'm hopefully going to break down in a very, very, very simple, easy to understand way, digital strategy. But first, we start with a few, I guess, preamble, for lack of a better word. So this is probably going to be unlike any other training session you've been on, because the way I've been trained is I start to look at the things that stop us from being successful where we want to be successful. And this is one of my favorite quotes of all time. For those of you who do know Sun Tzu, he was a Chinese military strategist. Let me just put this on full screen so it's a better experience for you. And he said, all men can see these tactics whereby I conquer, but what none can see is the strategy out of which victory is evolved. And I think that so goes for digital as well, because the truth about digital is a lot of what you see, whether it's on social media, whether it's the end result, is the tactics that people use. But it is so critical and important to understand the fundamentals, the basics, because success often comes not because you've applied some complicated, fancy new technique, but because you've been consistent and you've mastered the fundamentals. I've been in digital for close to 14 years, and I'm still surprised by how much at times in strategy, even with all of the experience that I have, I optimize and make a campaign better by going back to the fundamentals and asking the fundamental questions. So it would be remiss of us to not introduce ourselves. So who are we, first of all? I'm not going to spend too much time on this. This is not a marketing or sales call. What I'm interested in, the team is interested in today, is adding some to you in the next, let's see, 50 minutes, right? So I'm sure you've read on the screen who we are, but this is just to give you comfort that having been around for 13 plus years as a digital agency with capabilities, what we're talking about here is not just theory, because a lot of teachers also teach theory and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think applied knowledge is so much better because there's the theory and you've actually practiced it, you failed a few times, learned a few things, and you're able to bring that to bear in your work. So as a digital agency, we have been accredited by several organizations, including Google. We've also been through Stanford Seed, Goldman Sachs, and WSI, which is an agency in North America that does accreditation for digital agencies. And through that, we formed something called the Digicon Academy. Now, let me be totally honest, the Digicon Academy was born to improve the skills of our team. So it's very technical, very heavy on a lot of the sort of loftier digital ambitions. But then we realized that a lot of our clients could also benefit from a lot of what we were learning. So we then built the Digicon Academy to really be our training arm. And for me, training is my passion. I'm the group CEO of Blue Flamingo. But actually what I love to do is teach. Even when I was 3 years old, I would force my little sister and my siblings to sit and listen to me teach them stuff. So it's something that I love to do. I'm going to skip what we do because we do just about everything you can think of within the marketing space, from above the line to below the line. Some of you will be familiar with these terms. Some of them might be new to you. That's perfectly fine. But this is what we do. And I think the reason why this is also important is that it's also really great when you have an agency that not only understands digital as a niche, but marketing as a whole. Because a lot of the things that happen in digital are actually just marketing. It happens to be the platforms that change, and there's a little bit of technology in there. This is our track record. And now let's get down to brass tacks. Hopefully that's also given a little time for a few more people to join. So if you've just joined us, you're very welcome. It's great to have you here. We're just running an introduction, so you are here at the right time. Okay, so let's get straight into it. IRL, as you all know, if you're a millennial, in real life strategy building. How do we build a digital strategy? Now, what's the reason you signed up for this 1 hour? Maybe it's because you're a busy CEO who cannot have all the time to focus on everything to do with digital, but you manage a digital team and you need to make sure that the people you're managing, you have the basics, you have the fundamentals, so you can really be able to steer them and guide them in the right direction. Maybe you're a student on this call and you just know that this is one area that you want to improve on, and you want to add more to your body of knowledge. Maybe you're a marketing manager and your part of your job description is to do and perform tasks within digital marketing, but you find that you're quite busy and the 60 minutes appeal to you because like, oh, if I can master that in 60 minutes, that would be great. And that is my goal. So please give me feedback if there's anything that's too complicated or even too simple that perhaps you'd like to know more of. Daisy, my colleague, is going to put a link in the chat. If you have a moment, just jump onto that link. It's 3 questions only, which will not take you a long time, but it'll help to make this training even more relevant. So let's start with this. Now, you're going to indulge me because I'm going to ask you to follow along. So I would like you to take out a pad, a paper, do it on your laptop if you want, open up a screen, a tab, anything. And we're going to actually do a digital strategy together. And at the end of the strategy, at the end of this session, if you can email me your strategy, I will even give you feedback on where I think you could have done better. Okay, so fun. If we're all together, give me a thumbs up or just drop an emoji in the chat, say we're together and I'm following. That would be great. So I can know that we're on the same page. Thank you very much. Ansel, seeing your thumbs up, great. So when we are building a digital strategy, a lot of the things I'm going to share with you, you might say, Shanice, I already know this. That is fine. Well done. But the thing is, until you really practice it and do it well, if you find yourself still struggling at any level with digital marketing, it is because the fundamentals have not been covered well enough. Now, when we start with the objective, when you're writing the strategy, the first thing you start always is with the objective. What is it that you want digital marketing to do for you? Now, let me tell you one thing that I've learned in my time with marketing in general, digital, and even running a business. The one thing I've learned is that there is no substitute for clarity. If you do not have clarity of where you want to be, what your goal is, guess what? You will not get there. So you have to be super clear in your mind and not accept anything less than exactly what it is you expect this platform or this software or this company or this business to do for you. Let me give you an example. If you start a business today and you do not know what you want out of that business, all you want is to make money, let's say, but how much money? If you don't have an actual number, if you don't have an actual time and date by which you want to achieve this, you're actually headed not to success, but to whatever the opposite of success is. So let's go down to what an objective could be for digital marketing. Now, they're typically, and many of you might be aware of this, you could raise awareness with digital marketing. You could do lead generation with digital marketing, generating leads. You could want to go for engagement. But guess what? It also depends on the level of your business. Now, in business, there are very many levels. I think there's a level 1 up to a level 7. The level 1 is when you're just thinking about the business. It's not really a fully formed business. It's a prototype. Level 2 is when you start making a couple of sales. Level 3, you start to have some, I call them structures in place, simple structures. Level 4, those structures are more sophisticated. Perhaps the CEO no longer has to do 10 things. They've now hired a team. You are getting to scalability. Digital works the same way. The level you're at is important because the objective will change depending on the level that your business is at. So even as we write down the objectives, I hope you have your pad and paper and you're going to write down your objectives. I want you to think of, if you have a business, think of your business. If you don't have a business or you're a student, just think of a potential business that you would like to start, or think of make up a business, for lack of a better word, or even think of the school that you're at or wherever you're at, and just write down for me what your objective is. Remember, there's no wrong or right. This is going to be a very practical session. And if you'd like to email me after this, I will give you feedback on what I think of your strategy. So just write down for me what the objective is. And I've given you 3. You could be raising awareness. You could be generating leads, or you could be looking for engagement. Now, what do I mean when I say leads? Obviously, you want to bring more people into your business, into your platform, whatever it is you're doing. So let's write down that objective. And as you write down the objective, I'm now going to share with you some research that was done via consultants who surveyed and reported that these various marketing challenges of their clients. So I'm just giving you some examples of what possible objectives could be based on a challenge, because a challenge is born out of an objective. So a lot of them, you can see increasing sales is a number one objective. You could write that down. Increasing leads is another. What's the difference between increasing sales and leads? A sale is when I go on a site, there's e-commerce capabilities and I can buy a dress. A lead is when I perhaps put an email address in and the person gets an email address, but it's not a sale yet. They still have to convert me into a sale. You could want to increase brand visibility. You could want to measure ROI, nurture leads. All of these are possible objectives. So I've put them there for you as a sort of a cheat. You can look at this and say, okay, which one do I want? Now, you might say to yourself, I want to increase sales, but I also want visibility. I also want ROI. Please resist the temptation. And I'll tell you why. Especially when you're learning to craft and really want to be laser focused, try and narrow it down to one objective and the rest will come as a result. So let's say you say, I just want to increase my sales. That's what you want to do. Perfectly fine, stay with that, right? But as you increase your sales, you'll find that you're also increasing awareness, right? It might not be as well done as if awareness is your only goal, but you will get some awareness along the way. Okay, so hopefully we're still together. We've written down our objective, and here are some ideas for you of what your objective could be. Now, once you've gotten that objective, I want you to get a little bit more granular. So if you said sales, right? Go back and write down how many sales. Now, this is where it gets interesting because a lot of people will give an objective, but they're not going to be specific around what exactly they want to do with that objective. So remember what I said about clarity. Let's get some clarity here. So you've written down your objective. Please give me what is going to actually come as a result of that objective in tangible words. So if it's leads, how many leads are you looking for? If it's sales, how many sales are you looking for? And let's say in a month, okay? So you want to use digital marketing. How many sales do you want in a month? Let's do that. So I now want to give you a slightly more sophisticated way of looking at digital objectives. Let's say you're a slightly bigger organization and you're doing your digital strategy. How do you look at what your goal is? So this is an example. So let's say I am company A, I sell widgets, and in a year, my total revenue is $500,000. That's how much I make. But I want digital to bring in about 50% of this revenue. Let's say that's my target, okay? So you write down your revenue and you say you want digital to bring in $250,000 of that $500,000. Now there's something called an average deal size, which means that when you sell, on average, how much are you going to make per sale? So in this company, the widgets I sell, each widget goes for $5,000. So if I sell for $5,000, that means I need to sell 50 widgets to get to my goal. And this is what I meant by clarity and making sure you break it down such that you can be successful. You cannot be successful if there's a nebulous number sitting somewhere that you're not chasing. So it means that I now know that, remember what we talked about? What is my objective? Sales. And that is a business objective as well as a digital marketing objective, because then you also need to align the business objective and the digital objective. My revenue is 500,000. I want digital to contribute half of that. Maybe I have some other ways I make money. Maybe I have a sales team. I could have people in the market, direct to customer, but now I'm focusing on digital. I want digital to contribute half of that. So which means that if I need to sell 50 widgets, each of them going for $5,000 to make my target of $250,000, it means that I must get 50 people to buy the product. But now see what happens here. Look at how many leads I need to get, right, in order to win 50. That is where digital marketing gets really, really, really interesting, because these are the numbers you need to start chasing. If my objective is to get leads in, I need 650 leads, right? And SQL just means sales qualified leads, because you get market qualified leads and you get sales qualified leads. The difference between a marketing qualified lead and a sales qualified lead is a market qualified lead is a lead that perhaps is not the best lead, it's just a lead, and you haven't narrowed it down to see if this is your exact target consumer, right? Whereas a sales qualified lead is a lead that you have qualified. You know this is your target consumer, they're a hot lead, they really want and need your product, and they're ready to buy. So that's why we have so many leads, but then we narrow it down to the sales qualified ones, the really good ones that are ready to buy for us. So out of those 250 leads that are really good leads, I might only close about 20% of those 250 to get me to the 50 leads that I actually want. Now, if this is confusing, please stop me or put in the chat. I'm happy to go over anything. But the reason why I'm sharing this at such granular level is because I want you to see that digital is one area that you need to always measure. And in strategy, we get a lot of teachers teaching us the basics, but not really telling us what it takes to make a strategy work. And you need the numbers. Why is this important? Because a lot of the questions that we get is, how much should I spend on digital? And do you know where your frustration comes in? Because you have a very low budget, you expect a lot out of that budget, you don't get what you want, and then you say digital doesn't work, or I don't work, or this whole system, or I'm not smart enough, I don't get this. And then a lot of people give up, when actually it could be very successful if only they knew the right things to do and the right tactics. So now, as we go further down here, if I want 650 leads, I need to know how much each lead is going to cost me. So you can see here that the average cost per lead is $100, meaning that if I want to get these 650 leads, I'm going to spend $100 on each lead. Now, these are hypothetical numbers. So the question then comes, but Shanice, how do I know? Where do I get this data from? This data is all over the internet. If you just Google what is the average cost per lead for an FMCG company, or for an education company, or for this kind of company, you will actually get an average cost per lead. Now, I want to just give a little word of warning here. It does not mean that that is what your cost per lead will be. This is, remember, a strategy. It's a plan. You need to execute it and get enough data to see what it is for your business. It might be plus or minus, right? But at least you're getting an average. So for this particular goal that I've set here, the average for this industry is that every lead will cost me $100. So you have to sit back and think to yourself, is it worth it for me to spend $100 to get a customer through the door? And that's totally up to you. So you can see for this company that is making $500,000, now let's do the math. For $500,000, I'm going to spend $65,000, right, of my budget to get 50% of that revenue. Then you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Aha. Then that now depends on whether or not you think spending $65,000 to make $250,000 is worth it, right? And I'm very happy to share this stuff with you, because obviously these numbers, you will change them based on your scenario. For others, and I'll give you an example, for us, it takes our cost per lead is less than $10, right? But that's not a converting customer though. That's just a lead. Now for a customer, our cost per customer is somewhere around $300. It takes us about $300 to get a paying customer. But do you know how much we make off a customer? We make about $3,000 off a customer. So am I okay with spending $300 to get a customer paying me $3,000? Absolutely. But remember what I said, I'm going to spend $300, but to get to that one customer, I might have 50 customers who don't buy. So it's not actually $300. It might be a little bit more than $300, but at the same time, as long as I'm not spending $5,000 to get one customer is paying $3,000, I'm fine with it as long as I do my math. So this part was a little bit technical, so that's why I front-loaded it to be the first thing we discuss, because I want you to see how the numbers really do play into when you set your objective. An objective and a goal has to go hand in hand with how you want the numbers to play out. So get the revenue you want, how much you want digital to contribute to that, what is an average deal, how much are you going to spend to actually get one paying customer. This part is really, really, really critical. And the only way to actually get to this is through trial and error. So the next thing that we're going to do, so hopefully you've now in your let's go back to our notepads, books, wherever we're writing down our strategy, and let's make sure we put down our objective. So we have either raise awareness, leads, etc. I'm not going to get you to go through this complicated thing, but we will email you this after this so you can go back to it and you can actually start to apply. What I'm going to do is see if I can put this also in the chat, which means that I'll open it up for everybody. So what worst case scenario, if you click on that link, you can also pull up the presentation on your computer, which is not optimal or ideal. But until we can get the screen up, you can follow alongside me. And let me just open this to it. So anyone with the link can actually view that. And we're on slide 13. So sorry about that, everyone. We're just going to get this up and running shortly. Daisy's working on that. So the next...
Shanice, Mandile, could you just give us access to the Google Slides? Because when you click the link, it says that file is restricted. So we can't, there it is. It's okay now.
It's okay now? Okay. I just did. Okay. Thanks, Aline, for that. Okay, great. Okay, so sorry about that, everybody. Let's just follow along. Technology, it works until it doesn't. So you missed all my beautiful slides and quotes. What a shame. All right. So we are on slide 13. So if you look at that, that's where I was explaining the product example. So you'll see the company-wide revenue target, the digital contribution, the revenue contribution, all broken down. So that'll give you an example of a total budget, because one of the common questions is how much should I spend on digital? And this is a really cool way for you to actually be able to see that this is how much I want to spend. You can set that from the beginning. And then as you go, you can actually really optimize your spend. Timeline. Now, timeline, this is slide 14. Why timeline is essential is because digital campaigns or digital marketing does need to have what we call a start and a stop so that you can be able to calculate your return on investment. A lot of what gives frustration is that campaigns just sort of run along, you know, indefinitely, and there's no sort of start and stop and evaluation that's done on how well is it doing. So what is a typical timeline in our industry that's a good timeline? So I want to share this with you. 3 months is ideal for you to gather what we call data. So the 3 months allows you, let's say you're running a paid media campaign, you're running ads on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or even Google Ads. You want to give 3 months for the algorithm, the platform to learn about your audience, to learn about how you are buying these ads. After those 3 months, you need to sit, evaluate, and I don't mean like for a whole month, just a week or so, look at your results, and then decide whether or not you're getting that return on investment. So I'll give you an example. If I have an app and I want to acquire customers, what I will do is when it comes to my objective, which I hope you've written down, I'll say my objective is lead acquisition and app installs. So you want to acquire leads, but it's specifically around app installs. So I want 50 people to install this app. You will then run some ads, and hopefully you will come to the audience just now, and I'll tell you how important that is. You've run those ads. And if you have then decided you want to get 50 people every month and you get 10, something is not working. And then you need to, and this is what I said about going back to the fundamentals. Never progress with a campaign until the fundamentals are working. And do not worry about this. Don't get frustrated. What they don't tell you about digital marketing is a lot of it is trial and error. It is trial and error. And sometimes you'll get it right the first time, and sometimes it'll take you a bit of time. So you might go back and tweak the audience, you might go back and tweak some of the copy or the creative, but there'll be something that you'll tweak in order to get to your goal. So when it comes to timeline, we're looking at around 3 months to test your campaign and then take stock before you move on. Now, when we talk about a full campaign should be a minimum of 6 months, right? 6 months is the full campaign, but 3 months is where you evaluate. Now, here's what gets interesting. You still need to check in on your campaign weekly, especially if you're running ads. A big mistake I see people making is that they will set up an ad campaign and they will let the ads run for a whole month. And we made the same mistake. You let the ads run for the whole month, And at the end of the month, you sit with your team and say, how did the ads do? Big mistake. You should sit with your teams weekly and say, okay, how is the ad doing? We actually have now started reviewing our ads every 3 days, just to see, are we getting the right people? Are we getting a response? What do we need to tweak? And then we change things like the copy, the creative, and that's where you get to learn what works. Now, it seems intense, but if you can't be the person to sit in all these meetings, you need to set up a protocol where your team is evaluating this, because this is where the value is really going to shine through. So that's the bit on timeline. So as you're writing your strategy in the timeline session, I want you to write your time. What kind of timeline are you going to follow? Are you going to set up a campaign for 3 months? Are you going to set up a campaign for 1 year and then check in periodically? This campaign that you're building out, this strategy that you're building out, I want you to put a timeline to it based on what I've said that you think works, right? And now we're going to come to target audience, because this one by far is my favorite and also one of the most important, because target audience is what's going to even inform the kind of content you put out, the kind of copy you put out, the kind of images you put out. So what are the things about target audience? So now I want you to write down, who are you targeting? Give me their age. So let's start with age. What is their age? Are they 18 to 24? Are they 35 to 45? Give me their, are they male or female or both? You can write that down. Where are they living? Give me the geographical target of your audience. Is it East Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, global? You need to write that down. Then let's think about things like their hobbies and interests. What kind of things are they interested in? Are they interested in self-improvement? Are they an administrator? What kind of job do they have? What are their concerns? Now, if you're struggling to think of your target audience, what I would like you to do for me here is think of your best client that you currently have. Think about somebody who buys from you right now and just describe that person. That's the cheat right there. The other thing that is really great when you're looking about or thinking about target audience is something that we call a lookalike audience. Right? Now, Facebook allows you to do this. They have these sophisticated tools where you can go in and put people's email addresses into the Facebook tool, and it will find people on Facebook who look like these people. It's actually a little bit frightening. But what they do is if they have my email address, that means they have my Facebook profile. That means that they can find and match someone who is similar to me. They're a CEO. They perhaps do like to ride horses because I post that sometimes, so they know that I like that as a hobby. They perhaps like to shop in this area. These are the kind of music they follow. So they can actually give you a lookalike audience, right? That is very similar to the audiences you have. So this is a trick a lot of people don't know about how to build your target audience, is that you already have an audience and you can build another audience that looks like this by using a Facebook tool that will allow you to actually mine people that mirror very much what your existing audience is like. Another caveat, try and find your best customers when you upload them to Facebook. That means people who pay you on time, hopefully, and you actually consider them the ideal customer. Because another thing about business is that not all customers are the same. You will have some customers that are easier to work with better than others, and that's where you want to start, right? So that's how we build our target audience. Another really nifty way to build your target audience is interviews. Call up your best customer and ask them these questions. One, where do you go to look for information around XYZ, the product I'm giving you? Are there any alternatives or people that you use other than me? That's your competitors. 3, what are the main reasons you buy from me? What are the things I don't do so well that I could do better? Now, why are you getting all this information? Because this is going to help you build even your copy. You know how a lot of people say, I don't know what to post on social media. What should I post? You post what your customer wants to know. So if you've done your interview really well, and I know it sounds like a lot of work to do, but believe me, it's worth it, because once you have a very well-defined target, whoever is working on your social media, even if it's you, they will understand exactly whom to target and what kind of content to deliver for them. So let me give you an example. If I am, for example, selling gym equipment, I will call up one customer who buys from me and I'll say, hey, what kind of publications do you go to decide what kind of equipment to use? He might say, oh, there's a blog I love. This blog gives me all the kind of latest gym equipment, blah, blah, blah. Write down that blog, because that blog is where you're going to advertise, because that's where your customer goes. Then the person might say, oh, I use you guys because your customer service is great. There's a lady called Lucy who's really polite. That's a piece of content. Get Lucy, profile her, and say, we have the best customer service. When you call, do you want someone who understands A, B, C, D, F, G? That is content that is specifically tailored to the need of your target audience. So a lot of the times we tell you, find your target audience, but we don't tell you how. And that's why I wanted this session to be so practical and helpful, because now you also have tips that you can execute on. Because remember, knowledge is nothing if it cannot be applied. It's only when you apply that you will start to see results and changes in your digital strategy, even though you've probably done digital strategy courses before, and you probably know these things. But there's a difference between knowing and doing, and knowing what the next steps are. So if you're not applying some of these things, it would be a great time to do it. The next slide is promotion. So a lot of us don't get results from digital because we don't promote and we don't think about promoting. But the days of free to air are long gone. Right now, there's a very common phase in the industry, which is pay to play, which essentially means you need to pay to take part. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google Ads, even your website, they need you to put a little bit of juice behind them so that they can be visible. So if you're writing a digital strategy for a client, for your business, or you're just a student who's learning how to do this, promotion needs to form part of your strategy. So let's quickly recap where we started. We did our objective. We figured out how to put the numbers in. We then went to our goal in terms of that's where the numbers come in. What exactly am I looking for? We then did the timeline. How long am I planning to do this for? We looked at our target audience. Who am I speaking to? And now we're on promotion. Now, promotion is critical because remember that target audience I talked about, where I called my gym equipment buyer and I asked them which platforms they frequently use. Another question I would have asked him about is, where do you usually go if you need to buy gym equipment or need to buy stuff? Do you buy off Instagram, LinkedIn? And notice I didn't ask him, what's your favorite social media platform? Because people use platforms differently. I typically do not buy anything on Facebook. I go there to meet my friends and my family and see who got married and who's got a new cat. But I don't necessarily go there with the aim to buy. However, I do buy a lot from e-commerce platforms and Instagram because I can visualize what I'm buying, right? So, and LinkedIn, if I'm buying any courses, if I'm doing any educational stuff, I will typically buy it on LinkedIn. But that's because I'm this kind of consumer. So your consumer, where do they typically buy from? If you find that out, that is what's going to inform your promotion. Try and avoid as much as possible in your strategy doing what we call spray and pray. I'll put everything everywhere and hopefully one of them will work out. That is not a strategic approach. You want an approach where you know your customer is on this platform and you are monitoring those results. So say you've interviewed your customer, and this particular customer you've interviewed says LinkedIn. You interview another customer and that customer says Twitter. You interview a third and that one says Snapchat. Now suddenly you're confused. I've interviewed these customers, but they're all saying different things. You need to have a wider base, if you can, of customers and start to look for the common denominators, right? And those common denominators, that's where you'll focus your energy. Because remember, this is just a representation of your audience. It's not your entire audience. But if you start to find similarities, that's where you should focus. Now, I'm going to take you for a second back to what I said about levels. When you're a level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 business. Now, if you happen to be a level 1 business, it means that you don't have that many resources. And that means please don't try and be on every platform. It's just not worth the dollars that you're trying to stretch. Restrict yourself to the platform that will bring you the most return. That's what we have seen work for a lot of our clients. The ones who have bigger budgets, they can afford to be everywhere. They can afford to spread it around because they've got teams and resources. But if you are trying to start lean, then my advice is that in your strategy, when you think about promotion, think about promoting on just the channels where your audience is spending 60 to 70, 80% of their time that will give you the highest return. So it's a laser focus. Now, let me give you an example, because again, why are we doing this course? Because we use these in our own business. And what we found is LinkedIn works for us. Any of the other platforms, zero returns. How have we realized this? through trial and error, blood, sweat, and tears. We spent a lot of money on Facebook, Instagram, and there was no result. Then we spend money on LinkedIn. Even though it's more expensive on LinkedIn, we actually get people to attend. We sell products, people buy from us, and it's taken us time to actually realize that. But we wouldn't have realized that if we had not been patient enough to actually go back and look at what the results are. So when you look at promotion, that's my advice. Look at the level of the business that you're at, the resources that you have, focus it, and do not, please do not skip that part of talking to your customer and finding out where they are, because I cannot give you that information. An agency cannot do that for you. You can only get that from your customer. That's why it's so important to make sure you talk to them. So we've done promotion. Fantastic. Next slide, 17, is content and media. So you can even actually, now that you have this, you can actually use these empty buckets to actually fill in that plan for yourself. So when we go into content and media, a big question we also get, and a lot of where companies need help, is in creating and building the content. The first question you should ask yourself when you're putting together a digital strategy is, who is going to build the content? That is a very important question, the who question, because if you do not answer the who question, guess what? There will be no content. And try very much to be realistic. If you say, I as the CEO will do the content, then you need to go into your Google Calendar and find a time in your Google Calendar and block it out and say CEO time to do content and honor it. Otherwise, it will not get done. And you will get frustrated and you will not get the result you're looking for. The other question is, what kind of content? Are you going to do video? Are you going to do still images? Are you going to do GIFs? And do you have the skill, the capacity to do this internally, or you're going to get someone externally to do it? And how much are you going to do? Now, when you're running a digital strategy, it's really key to also understand how often are you going to be posting. Will you post once a week, once a month, once every 3 months? Because neither of those is wrong. The person who posts a week could be absolutely right. The person once a week could be right. The person who posts 3 times a day could be right. Again, it depends on your audience, what they expect from you, the kind of product you're selling, and what your goal and target is at the end of the day. So when it comes to content, the reason I put media is because in digital marketing, we also look at types of media. So that's very, very important. What you're going to spend and use on building video is not going to be the same as what you spend and use on building just flat images, for example. So it's really critical that you also answer this question, put it in your strategy. So now that we're doing the strategy together, I'd love for you to spend a bit of time there and write down what kind of content are you going to use. Remember, you already have a timeline. So you know that this particular strategy, you're writing maybe for 3 months, 6 months, or a year. So when it comes to the content, what kind of content are you going to share? Now, let me just give you a few examples here. People sometimes say, but I don't know what to talk about. I actually don't have any content. And that is not true. You run a business, which means every single day you're engaging with content. The people you talk to, the teams you have, the product you have, all of this is content. And guess what? Nobody has a bigger right to talk about that content than you, because it's your content. And that's what makes it unique and special. A lot of the time in strategies, I see people strategize and just try to copy what is already in the market. And what is the point of that? You're not adding anything new or unique to the digital universe. You're simply posting what XYZ posts. You know, those posts of Happy Easter from so-and-so. You know, there's nothing creative, there's nothing unique, there's nothing authentic, there's nothing that's you. When you started your business, the business you're working in, there's a reason, there's a particular reason you started, because you wanted to offer something unique and special in the world. This is your opportunity to bring like-minded people to your business. So the idea here is that you need, remember the what, the who's going to do this content. They need to really understand that your strategy is to put out authentic content that's yours. So again, if I'm a level 1 business, I can assure you, I'm not going to post more than 2 or 3 times a week. And that is simply because of resources. But I'm going to put some amazing posts up, and I'm going to put a little bit of money behind those posts, because it's a very good use of limited resources, and it's a very good use of time and spend. So rather than having a post every day and you're not even putting some money to promote it, remember what we talked about in promotion, it means that it's not getting to the light of day, and therefore you might as well not be on social media. So your strategy is all wrong. So here you want to strategize to make sure that you are stretching the resources that you have to give you the absolute best possible outcome. So I would say here, write down what kind of content you're going to share and then be deliberate. And the things you need to think about is, if I want to share video, who's going to shoot it? Am I going to get a couple of my customers, for example, behind a camera and have them share what it's like to enjoy my product, what the benefits are of how they're working with me? Because video does really, really, really well. And you can use an iPhone and you can do a very authentic, good video, actually, that could be perfectly good. And that could be your ad at the same time. So testimonials are very powerful. Even if you just get 4, that's your content for a month. Done. Promote those 4 and make sure that there is a objective, which means that I'm not just going to put content for the sake of content. Remember, if my objective is lead generation, it means that I'll put up that video, but I want to make sure that that video is enticing people to come and join, and there's a link where they can sign up for whatever it is I'm selling. Always keep the objective in mind. That's why we're building the strategy. So the content has to rhyme or gel with the objective. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to go into probably the last section before we go into Q&A, which is data. Now, data, you've probably heard, is the new oil. It's everything everyone's talking about. It's the #1 thing when it comes to social digital media. I mean, that's the reason that controversy with TikTok is happening right now, is because of how they're handling data. Now, you're going to generate massive amounts of data in your business through digital marketing. So in your strategy, you have to strategize how you are going to capture and use this data. And if I start at the very, very fundamentals, at the very basic level, what you should have is this spreadsheet. And I'm very happy to add value to you and send this to you. This spreadsheet allows you to capture each area of digital marketing every single month, what the performance is on those areas, and you can benchmark it month on month to see if you're improving. Remember what I said about being able to sit down monthly and see how you are performing? And, you know, if you're very serious, every 3 days to look at how your digital media your paid media is performing. It's the same thing. If you currently don't put into your strategy a monthly meeting to look at how your digital media is performing, then you're not going to really optimize and get the most out of digital media that you could. So if I look at this, I look at my email marketing, my search, my paid search, everything is detailed there, and it shows me how I'm performing month on month. This, by the way, is an actual sheet that we've taken from our own marketing that we do, that I'm sharing with you. So in your strategy, you need to sit down and strategize, how am I going to handle my data? So in your plan that you're writing right now, under the data section, I want you to think about, how often am I going to sit down to review my content? Which areas am I going to, which platforms have I chosen? So whether you're going to be on social media, you're just going to, run your website, you're going to do Google ads, you need to think about those areas, because that's what you're going to report on. So the other big area for data is Google Analytics. And if you have a website and you're not looking at your Google Analytics, obviously that's an area you need to start looking at. If you do have a website and you are looking at your Google Analytics, my question to you would be, what are you doing after you've looked at the analytics? Because it's about closing the loop. And the loop goes in this way. You have the data, you view the data, you take action on the data, you get new data, you review that data, it gives you different feedback, you action that feedback, and that's the loop. But what tends to happen a lot in digital strategy is that we do not close that loop. We have the data, we review the data. We have the data, we review the data. Very, very frequently, we don't actually act on that data to give us new results that we then act on, and so on and so forth. So that circle is a never-ending circle, but we need to find ways to close the gaps and close the loop. So with Google Analytics, it allows you to do that. Do you know where your visitors are coming from? Do you know how people find your website? If you look at this, for example, you'll see that direct traffic is people who already know the URL. They're putting it in there and they're finding you, right? Organic traffic is, people who have actually found you through organic ways. They don't know the URL, but they found you on a website. They found you on some social media. You haven't necessarily paid for it. Then there will be, if this dashboard was using paid media, there would be a section there that shows search PPC, which is the amount of traffic to your website from your advertising, the ads you're putting on Google the PPC ads, which is pay-per-click, that's what it means, or the ads that you're using on social media to drive people to your site. You will see referral. Referral is ads that are coming through social media. Maybe you've put a post up on Facebook and you've directed people to your website. That would be your referral traffic. So of these 234 users, this is essentially your breakdown. So then there's tech and tools. Okay, so now we've written down our strategy, starting with our objective, which was our slide 11. We went into our goal. We went into our timeline. We went into our target audience. We talked about promotion and actually which platforms we're going to use. Are we going to use LinkedIn or are we going to use Twitter? And we said that depends on our audience. We then talked about content and media. Who's going to do the content? How often? What type of content am I going to put out? We went into the data. When am I going to look at the data? What kind of data am I going to look at, including things like Google Analytics, including things like your paid media results? All of that is your data. How often do you sit with it? So now we come to tech and tools, because definitely there will be technology that you will need to buy or use or tools that will help you do this. And that needs to form part of your strategy. When you're putting down the digital strategy, you will have a section for tech and tools, and you'll write down which tools am I going to use. So for email marketing, for example, am I going to use MailChimp? Or am I going to use SendWave or whichever platform of the thousands of platforms that are out there, okay? When it comes to Facebook, when I want to run ads, am I going to use Facebook Business Manager, for example? Facebook Business Manager allows you to run your ads, add people to run your ads, and gives you really, really good data on things like your target audience, etc. When it comes to creating artwork, and I've put an extra sheet for you in this, I think it's one of the last slides, where I've given you links to things like Canva that will help you do really, really pretty cool graphics. And it's like drag and drop. You don't need to be a qualified designer or graphic designer, but you can start putting together some pretty nice images at relatively low cost, right? So your tech and tools forms part of your strategy. Write them down, right? And make sure everybody knows where they are. Even if you're going to use Excel, right, to monitor your performance, that's part of your tech and tool makeup. And the reason why a digital strategy like this is important to have and document is because if you have someone else doing your strategy for you, that is going to be their Bible. That is what they're going to use to evaluate their performance day in, day out. It's what everybody in the company is going to share to know this is our digital strategy. And then you will keep adding. Now, of course, I will need to put a caveat. This is a 101, right? So this is a very simple strategy. As you progress in your business from a level 1 to a level 5, 6, 7, the strategy will get more complicated. It'll get bigger, but you don't want to start by building a very complicated strategy. You want to start with the basics. And remember what I said, if you are not getting the results you want, go back to the basics and the fundamentals until you get the results you want. And then you can move to the next step and the next step and so on and so forth. So that is tech and tools. We have only 4 minutes, so I'm at the end anyway, but I do want to give some room for feedback, etc. Now, what I've done with the rest of the slides, I've given you some examples. There's actually a company with an example, and the lesson is if you need leads fast, then the tactic to use is paid search. There's another company with a background and objective and its results. And if you need brand visibility and to educate people on what you do, go website and content optimization. And then I've given you a third example of another company that's perhaps a slightly bigger company. What is the lesson there? If you need to communicate with your customers and leads, do social media and do email marketing. And that, for me, is the golden nugget that I'd like to end with, is that the key thing about digital strategy, if you forget everything else that I've said, it is just to apply the fact that whatever you need, there is a particular tactic and strategy that works best for that need. That's why I started by saying objectives is really important. We've all heard it, we all know it, but we don't spend enough time really thinking about our objectives, right? So I would have loved for you to share a key thing you've learned from today's session. We will send a follow-up. If you could do that there, that would be fantastic. And there is a very interesting sheet here that I would love to share with you at some point that shows you, that now goes into what I call Digital Strategy 2.0. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated, but we have your goals and they are juxtaposed against the strategies. For example, when do you use a microsite? When do you use display? When do you retarget? When do you do content planning? And when do you do development and so on and so forth. So that is a little bit more complex. And you'll see it in the strategy that I've shared with you. It's called Click to Link. I think it's on slide 23. And it actually goes into paid search, SEO, more as strategy. But that's a very in-depth one. The purpose of this session was really to give you an overview, to show you how to write a digital strategy, hopefully have you do it in real time with me, so you can actually apply it to something that you're thinking about. Think about the tech and tools, but those are the major components of a digital strategy that you always need to remember. So as we wrap, what we would love to do is, Daisy is going to put an email address in the chat. It's info@digicon.academy. And once you've done our little survey, please do it. It's 3 questions, very quick. If you would like to go more in depth into digital strategy and understand actually how to build, manage, how to, or if you know anyone within your organization who you think would actually benefit from going into these strategies for results, to actually really be able to build it from scratch and get all the results, you are welcome to attend our paid session. It is only $100. We do 1.5 hours, but we really get into the nitty-gritty of how to build the strategy now that you've got sort of the basics and the 101. You don't need this. I mean, the strategy itself, if you follow those components, if you go back to the basics, believe me, you will build a better strategy than 90% of people who've spent years in digital marketing. That one I can assure you. But we would definitely love to give a more in-depth session for anybody who would like it. So I see Daisy, are you still typing that? I don't see the address in the chat. I think I'll just throw it in there. It's info@digicon.academy. So do keep that and just send us an email if you would like to sign up for the paid session. We're happy to do that. And then I think the main thing will be, if you're happy to send me your strategy, I'm happy to give my comments on it and tell you where I think it could perhaps be thought through a little bit more. But hopefully, as we were going, you were actually writing down the main components of a strategy and you found this session helpful. I see we are at time. I don't know if there's any questions. I can happily take questions for the next 5 or 10 minutes if anybody wants to ask any questions. But it is really my hope that you found this session somewhat helpful and that you've learned something new today. Over to you, Daisy. Okay, Ansel has a question. Ansel, I think you're welcome to unmute and go for it.
Thank you for the session, Shanice. Yes, I just wanted to get your perspective regarding the use of likes and followers as part of digital strategy, because we always have this scenario where someone judges your content or your effectiveness of marketing with the likes that your posts attracted and also the followers that are on the various social media accounts. So I'd just like to know about your perspective on that. Thank you.
That's a great question, Ansel. Thank you for asking it. And I'm just going to start by saying that likes and followers tend to be what we call vanity metrics. There's actually even a phrase for it in digital marketing. And I'll tell you why they're vanity metrics. If you go back to your objective, if they are not serving any tangible outcome that you can trace and track, then to be honest, it is a waste of time. We've done campaigns where the client does not care how many people are following them on Facebook, but they care how many people are buying from them. So it goes back to what metric, what objective, what goal are you chasing? So the next time your client says to you, but I only have 5,000 likes, I want to get to 50,000. The best response to that is to say the objective here is to create lead generation or awareness. And if it's awareness, then it comes down to reach. It comes down to number of people who viewed your YouTube video, because those are tangible metrics. How many times have you liked a Facebook page, right, for a brand and never gone back there again? Yes, you're a like on their page, but you don't even see their content, you don't engage. So if you give them that example, hopefully they'll start to see that, yeah, actually, even me, when I go like a page, the chances that I then engage with them after that are usually very few. I hope that helps, Ansel.
Yes, it does. Thanks so much.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I don't know if we have any further questions. I don't see any in the chat.
I've seen a hand up for Chuanka.
Okay, Chuanuka, please unmute. Go for it.
Oh, Chuanka, you muted in case you're speaking. Okay, no worries, no worries, no worries.
Thank you very much, everybody. Over to you, Daisy. Wish you a good weekend. And for Ansel, I think I've shared the email address in the chat.
Good. Thank you for making it here. Yeah, we normally have this much fun. So whenever we send out an invite, please do come and check out. And like Shani said, we've shared an email in case you have questions or in case you need help in any way. Please do reach out. Yeah, we'll be able to help you. Other than that, do have a great time, I guess. And until we meet again. Yeah.
Happy
Bye for now.
Peace, everybody. Bye for now. Take care.